Well, hello everybody. My name's Neil Priscott from Gloucestershire Cricket. Thank you very much for joining us today. In our 150th anniversary, this is not the way we thought we'd be celebrating the playing of cricket, but of course we've got many special memories from down the years that we do want to celebrate. And today is the start of a series of 6 programmes that we celebrate the club's glorious turn of the millennium period, 6 Lord's Trophy final wins in 6 years. We'll be joined each time by a few former players, greats from the club's history. Very grateful for 3 gents joining us today. We'll start with a very talented right-hand batsman, quick between the wickets, sharp fielder, thousands of runs for the club. And he was a star of the show on this very first Lord's Trophy final win, scoring 61 in the 124 victory against Yorkshire. Mr. Rob Cunliffe. Thank you, Rob, for joining us. How are you and how's lockdown been treating you?
Lockdown is marvellous. Not. No, it's difficult. It's my wife's a key worker, so I'm at home looking after the little one. So luckily my daughter's here today, so she can look after him and have a bit of peace. So, but no, other than that, it's just trying to entertain him and staying busy, really, and doing lots of little things that I'd never do because it's the cricket season.
Well, yeah. What's your involvement in the game today, Rob?
Well, I'm currently at the moment playing for Brislington Cricket Club. So that was my first year last year. Obviously, was going to continue this year, but it's not looking too promising. But also doing a bit of coaching around, doing supposed to have been Old Down, Thornbury, a little bit of Rockhampton, and just various other little bits going on, really, to be honest.
Okay, well, thanks for joining us. Our second guest today was an excellent off-spin bowler, scorer of useful lower order runs, and in my research, I've reliably informed the joker in the pack. And with 258 wickets, he stands 3rd highest on list A wicket takers for Gloucestershire. Towards the end of his playing career, he become the chairman of the PCA. And in this final against Yorkshire, he took 3 for 39 from his 10 overs. Big welcome to Martyn Ball. Thanks for joining us, Martyn.
Good morning, Neil. Pleasure to be here and see my buddies, Rob and Boo Boo.
Yeah, and where are you and what's your involvement in the game today, Martyn?
Well, I've been quite lucky during lockdown. Complete reverse story of Rob. I live down on the Devon coast now in Dartmouth, and it's been lovely. The weather's been fantastic. We've been able to go for some nice walks and swim in the sea and things like that, and obviously keeping social distance. And it's quiet. It's quite a holiday place, so nobody's been allowed to come to second homes or come and book cottages to stay. So it's been really quite peaceful, and you know, we've been lucky that we've just not been, as you say, just, you know, total isolation in homes and having to stay out of people's way. We've been able to, like I said, walk and enjoy the countryside, and yeah, I found it really nice. As from a cricketing perspective, quite quiet the last 18 months. I don't do a lot in the cricket field. As you said, when I finished playing, I was chairman of the PCA. Within a year or two, I then sort of took up a busy sort of voluntary role with the Lord's Taverners and was chairman of cricket for several years for them. And then with moving down to Devon in the last, like I say, 5 years ago, about 18 months ago, I handed that role over. So, you know, you're quite isolated then. Everywhere's along. Bristol's, you know, for me, is a 2.5 hour drive, and everything's sort of London centric. Is you're gone for a day or two. So it's I've come down to Devon and done a jack and sort of, you know, gone into hibernation.
Well, thanks for joining us today. And it's going to be good to talk about some cricket as well. Also, we do hope when the club does get to celebrate its 150th events that we can prize you up to Bristol for those.
Oh, that'd be lovely.
Our third guest doesn't need too much of an intro, to be honest, because he's a club legend. He's with 7,825 List A runs and 390 List A wickets. They are both a record for Gloucestershire. He captained the club to 7 limited overs trophies in this 6-year period that we're talking about. Of course, 6 of those were Lord's finals. He, in this game against Yorkshire, he was man of the match. He scored 112 and also bowled some tidy overs. Perhaps controversially, he beat Wally Hammond in the recent Twitter fan to get to the final for the greatest Gloucestershire star, narrowly pipped by Jack Russell in the final. But big welcome to Mark Alleyne. Thanks for joining us, Skip.
Hi, good morning, Neil. Morning, lads.
Morning.
Yeah.
Morning.
You all?
How are you getting on, Mark? How's lockdown and what are you doing in the game at the moment?
Okay, so lockdown's going quite well. Currently, working at Marlborough College, and they're kind of operating a full timetable. So presenting cricket drills and drills for the students to keep them busy, and on Mondays and on Fridays mainly. And in between, just staying in touch with some of my tutees, just making sure they're good to go and working from home studiously. But since Gloucestershire, I spent 7 years at MCC, where our paths crossed a little bit.
Yeah.
And I've been at Marlborough College now for 5. And in between, stayed in the game with Benson Cricket Club, where I came against Rob again. I had 4 years there. And I still love playing a bit of Taverner stuff with Borley, a bit of PCA Masters, and recently some kind of England over 50s stuff and Gloucestershire over 50s. So still love it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great to hear, Mark. And I guess the first thing I want to ask you all is not necessarily about the final itself, but it's the run up to it, because it was 22 years, a hell of a wait for some silverware in the club offices, and I think just to remind our fans that we qualified for the Benson Hedges Super Cup by virtue of finishing in the top 8 in the championship the previous year, and the run up to the final was 2 home matches, Surrey and Sussex in the semi. Surrey, though, were riding high. I mean, they would run away with the championship that year. They had a star-studded team, and we came away obviously with the 2 victories. Can I ask you for some memories of the run up to the final? Let's start with you, Skip. You know, Surrey couldn't have been easy.
No, Surrey, as you said, they had some big names, and the great thing about the one-day cricket, kind of back in the day, if you like, England made sure all the internationals were always available for the one-day competition. So you could be guaranteed a star-studded side every time you play against some of the big teams. Luckily, Rob Cunliffe is a little bit of a Surrey specialist. So when Surrey see Cunliffe come in, they can't really match that too much.
Well, Rob, Bristol would be a bit of a fortress for Gloucestershire in this period. So what was it about playing in Bristol in these big matches against Surrey and Sussex that helped you, perhaps?
I think personally, is the crowd as well. The crowd played a huge part in cheering us on and whatever we did. But equally, I think the team spirit that we had was just unbelievable. And I think we were physically fit. We did do a lot of training, and I'm sure that's what helped us contribute towards the wins. You know, those close sort of finishes where maybe if the bowlers were tired and the fielders were tired, but we were so fit that we managed to maintain our standards to the very end, and obviously getting us through to the main day.
Well, training, that's a really useful point there, Rob, because that's my next question. You had a new coach, John Bracewell, who'd come over from New Zealand.
Yeah.
Methods. Martyn, I'd be keen to sort of hear from you. What impact did the coach bring? And of course, I'm going to have to ask you about the impact of your captain as well. and how might that have helped you, you know, given that it was 22 years since the club had won a trophy?
Yeah, no, they were, you know, Mark's here now, but they were a really dynamic team together, in the way that the emphasis all the time was about the sum of the team and the amount of each individual's responsibility to make sure that you know, that team tipped, and also to take control of the performance yourself. You know, we perhaps had a bit of a history. You know, Courtney Walsh was an absolute legend. You know, we all loved playing with him, were amazed by him, but there was maybe that dependence at times on Courtney. Now, that's been spoke about a lot. But no, I think that sort of installing confidence in each individual. You know, we were a team at that point that only Jack had played for England. And it was just about everybody doing their bit. Not, you know, in some ways that Kiwi element about the All Blacks, you know, when the guys pull on their All Black shirt, they know that they're representing all those people for the previous 100 years and how important that other guy next to you is, and not letting him down. And we did. We were the, you know, the sort of dynamism of the coaching of John and the captaincy of Mark. You know, there'd be some amazing things that Mark would do where he would go with his gut feeling on something. You would maybe in your mind think, why are we making that change, or why are we doing that now? But 9 times out of 10 it would work. And it was just a real team effort, and we all grew huge confidence in our own abilities by having that responsibility about, you know, being the team, not letting that team down, and just giving it, you know, 100%. And we would joke about it in the field in some ways, because it was 11 against 2. You know, when there was 2 batsmen out there, it was 11 against 2. There's 11 of us, and we would just get into situations where you just knew we'd win it. Whereas people maybe watching it, the commentators on the TV would think, you know, it's still in the balance, you know, and it wasn't an arrogance. You know, maybe when we did slip up in later days, it was an arrogance, maybe, but the arrogance of, come on, we win it from here, when we got together, would be said, and we'd believe it. And I remember, you know, other games more so than the maybe the quarterfinal and the semi-final, because that was about building the knowledge and that team ethos. But maybe other quarterfinals or other semi-finals, when I remember one against Derby at Bristol, where they should have won it hands down. But when we got a wicket, we knew we were going to do it. And the same, we had a quarterfinal or something against Durham, and they should have. The ball went soft. It went exactly how we wanted it, and we just we saw it home. And it was, you know, a lot installed on us by the thoughts of Mark and John, and they were, you know, a great team to be leading us.
Well, we would, I mean, as a club, would obviously have this really dominant period, but I guess we're talking about a time where, you know, so we qualified for our first final. You know, we're hoping to end those barren years. Mark, keen to understand your views right in the build up to the match itself. So you're facing Yorkshire, who are, you know, heavy favourites, you'd say. Star-studded team. You know, they got Craig White, Michael Vaughan, Greg Blewett, Ryan Sidebottom, to name 4. Did that help you in the run-up? And secondly, you know, did you change anything for when you went up to Lords the day before? What was your mindset as a captain and as a team?
Okay, I mean, firstly, Borley kind of touched on it a little bit. Opposition were fairly irrelevant, really, in a lot of ways. It's so reassuring as a captain when you're on the pitch and you look around and you've got guys that you know you can trust and rely on in every situation. That does give you the confidence, maybe, to do anything, really. And I guess I'm feeding off of their reliability and confidence, and they're the same for me. So it kind of just churns around, and before you know it, we just got one hub of confidence out there, really believing in each other in every situation, every moment. The opposition, I can't remember a time I ever thought, oh my gosh, you know, opposition's got this, they've got that. I never ever saw it that way. you just look in your change room and you can relax because you're confident with the people around you.
Well, on the morning itself, so there were 22,000 fans at Lord's that day. Now, I don't want to state the obvious. In fact, it might not be obvious, but was it at that time the most people that you'd played a game in front of? And Rob, a specific question for you. Obviously that one there, but also you were batting 3 in the final, and actually you batted 6 in the quarter and semi-final. So I'd love to understand between you and the skip there, what the change in the batting order on the day, and how were you pre-match?
Pre-match was a bit different to Mark, I can assure you. I remember we got a taxi to the ground. Snapey, I think Kim Barnett was in there, and obviously Mark himself. And I remember getting to the ground, got to the gates, and Snapey gives it the old, "Oh, look at this lot, come in and watch us." Well, that just made me, I was petrified then, because I'd never played in front of a crowd that big, you see. So, but no, I sort of try to look at everybody else, really, because they were all so relaxed and, you know, chilled. Yeah, obviously there'd be butterflies going, because I don't think you'd be normal if there was no butterflies going. But it was bizarre because, you know, we'd done everything, getting into the changing room, getting changed, ready to sort of warm up. But at that point, we still didn't know we were playing or who was playing in that team. And I remember doing everything that I had to do to get myself right. And Matt Windows and I were over in the nets on the nursery ground having a few throwdowns, and I was batting, so I had me back to the media centre. And I remember Stevie saying to me, "Oh God, here comes JB." I was like, "Oh no!" Like I said, at this point we still didn't have a clue what the team was, and he was like, "He's getting closer." Oh, God. And then obviously JB come up and said, "Good luck, you two. You're playing." And it was just like a wow. And then you walk back across the ground, and then you start trying to soak in the atmosphere a little bit. But I think the worst part for me was waiting to get in. You know, obviously the match situation for the other two were not fit for me to go in at 3, which is absolutely fine. But I do enjoy batting at 3. But it was just waiting to get out there, really. Every time you heard a cheer, you know, you're thinking, "Oh, is that the Yorkies or is that Gloss?" And then obviously I think Kim got out first. And I remember walking through the long room, and this lovely old gentleman said, "Very good luck, young man." And I couldn't even speak. My mouth was so dry. And then you get out onto the turf, and then you hear the fans chanting your name, and it's just unbelievable. It was just, I have goosebumps now talking about it. You know, but and then when you take guard and the umpire says, "Can you keep your bat still?" You know you're struggling with nerves, then, don't you? But other than that, I mean, like I said, I think the whole day was just unbelievable. And I think the one person that helped me through that game was the skipper. He was just so calm. And I remember when Timmy got out, Mark came to the crease. He was like, "Oh my God, look at this lot. They've come to watch us, mate." He said, "Just enjoy it." And I think that just helped, you know. But that's what we were saying about Mark. He's just such a calming influence, and very helpful in a situation as big as that was for us.
Well,
Neil.
Yeah, go on, Mike.
Just to add on to that, like Rob's going, because before we start delving into the game, then once we're underway, because obviously those two, that their partnership was the foundation of that victory. But Rob then touched on how cool and calm Mark made him feel when Mark arrived at the crease, etc. And what have you. That was, you know, my recollection of like pre-game was a quarter-final used to be a big event. I think leading up to that year, I probably played in 2 quarter-finals that we lost. So for us, you know, like myself and Mark, Mark's obviously older than me. No, only by a year or so. But, all through this that end of the 80s and the early 90s, it was just you didn't expect to win games. You went into them, the quarter-final being a big game, you were nervous. There was apprehension that you changed things. You did things you didn't do normally. Whereas I remember Yorkshire hadn't won a final for quite a few years as well. There was a big pressure whilst you rattled through their names. Even the guys that weren't playing, I think Hoggard, Goff didn't play, but they were there. We stayed in the same hotel. We turned up the day before, little training session at Lord's. Mark and John just made it like any other day. We did what our normal routines, things like that. When you saw the Yorkshire guys turn up, and they had to turn up, and the Blazers, the Yorkshire Rose, the 500 committee members, Jeffrey Boycott, they're in the same hotel talking to our committee like, well, we're going to do tomorrow. Our team of stars, we haven't won a trophy either. You just could see their players petrified at the pressure, even though these England players. And these are little 5%ers. I think 9 of us went with our wives, went and had a meal in Covent Garden. I know me and Boo Boo went there. I know it wasn't quite the full team. Everyone's invited, but 9 of us jumped in cabs, went to Covent Garden, couple of beers, glass of wine, chat with the girls. It was like, as if tomorrow was a normal day, not a. And when I know Rob said he was nervous, but I think a lot of us found those things then exciting, and yes, you're bound to be nervous, but I think the environment those guys created enabled us all the time to absorb those pressures without dumping a load of pressure on ourselves.
Yeah,
I think that continued.
I mean, that's fascinating, actually. I mean, I've worked with Mark, so I do appreciate his Zen-like qualities. I mean, I guess, Mark, take you back to the toss of the coin. You chose to bat. Was there any doubt? Was there any debate? Was that always what you were going to do? And was that in the plan?
Okay, so you've probably picked up by now. We don't kind of over strategize the game. We try and make common sense decisions at the right time. And I must admit, just reflecting on Rob's anxiety now on the morning of the game, I was fairly oblivious to that, to be honest. And it's not because I didn't care. It's just when we had the squad of players that we did, I generally thought any 11 is good enough. And I wasn't stressed about who that 11 would be, to be honest. But I didn't really think about the guys that weren't sure that were going to play or not. So apologies for that, Rob, but you got through it, okay? Once again, leading up to the toss, had a chat with John. There's almost certainly we would have got a little bit of feedback from a lot of the players, particularly the senior group. Not in a way of what should we do, but it's nice to, people get a feel for the ground when they go out to practice. So you walk across the Lords, you have a little butchers at the pitch, and people have some really good feedback for you. But it was a glorious sunny day. It was kind of made for batting. Generally, in a big situation, I would like to field first, because the advantage of that, everyone's starting the game at the same time. And I think that's a really powerful thing. By batting first, everyone had a bit of a staggered start. The openers, I remember seeing Timmy, when the umpires were going out, and, the hairs stood on my hand, when they were walking out firstly. But just imagine everyone had to go through that individually for the first innings. If we fielded first, we might absorb that all together. Anyway, it was a good pitch, and there wasn't any real decision whether we should bowl about first. Just get in there, get some runs on the board, and try and enjoy the day. And that was generally how I was feeling.
Well, you had a good start. I mean, Kim Barnett, Tim Hancock, they put on 66 for the first wicket. Rob's obviously talked about coming in first down. You guys join in, Mark, at 75 for 2. You put on 157 runs in 26 overs. So I think we, as Martyn said right at the start, a match-winning partnership. I think we might have a couple of pictures of you both in full flow. Rob, first let's start with you. A half century in a major Lords final. How does that feel? And what's it like hitting a 6? With 22,000 people watching.
I think the most important was getting the first run, get off the mark. But it's just great. I mean, as I said before, batting with Mark was just unbelievable. I remember, just hitting a couple of fours, and it just sort of relaxes you a little bit. But then you start really enjoying it, and you're thinking, I don't want to let myself down here. I just want to keep going and going and going. And then, obviously, getting a 50 was just unbelievable. It's something, as a young lad, you would dream about, really. And then after I got my 50, it was just sit back on their bat and watch Boo Boo just demolish them. And it was great. I remember one of the crowd shouting to, I can't remember his name, the left armour.
Hutchinson, side bottom.
Hutchinson, yeah. And I think he misfielded one, and it went through his legs. And I remember the old Yorkie crowd going, "Who are you? Who are you?" Which I thought was fantastic. But yeah, and then like I say, seeing Mark smashing Hamilton around the park and things like that, and basically running twos for Boo Boo was just a pleasure, because I'd rather him be on strike, striking it the way he was. Like I say, I used to be, my nickname at the club was Forrest Gump, so because I used to like running, but things have changed now, I can assure you. But but no, like I said, to be a part of that partnership and have the privilege to watch Boo Boo smashing it like the way he did, and control his innings the way he did, obviously then set us up for that big total. So yeah, it's great.
Well, we'll come on to Mark and his innings, but I just want to know where does this innings rank for you, Rob, in your whole career? You've obviously scored higher scores. Where would you place it though in the memory banks?
In the memory banks, probably number one, really, because it's such a historic day for the club. And as we've all touched on, JB and Mark had done so much, not just on the pitch, but behind the scenes and things like that, to make the club move forward. And I remember, particularly, I think we touched on the fitness side of it. JB sorted out a gym, and we were only on 6 months contracts then, and it's like it's optional, but we'd like you there Monday, Wednesday, Friday. But I think that the boys bought into that brilliantly, and that's like I was saying. So up to Christmas, we were doing heavy weights. Well, some people were doing a lot heavier than me, but and then after Christmas, it was more maintaining and building up for the fitness side of it. So, but again, that's something that I think the boys showed what a great team we were, because we all bought into that, and I don't think anybody missed a session other than Jack, who came back saying,
"Thanks, Rob."
Yeah, and came back saying he'd been training. He took his shirt off. I think he'd lost weight. But but no, other than that, like I say, it's down. It's not. It is down to Mark and JB, but it's down to the team, I believe. In the offices as well. It's all a very homely club. So yeah.
Mark, you famously made a century on debut as a very youngster, beat W.G. Grace's record in the process. So you were the backrock of this innings, 112 you scored. So what, do you not do nerves, or were you seeing it particularly well that day?
Yeah, I mean that day was pretty special. I did things that I hadn't done before, to be honest. And it was a big moment, and I was determined, if it was going to be the last, it was going to be one I'm going to absolutely enjoy. And to be honest, the pitch was a pretty bland pitch. The Yorkies, they kept coming, they keep coming hard, which on those kind of pitches is quite nice. And
we're seeing you raising your bat here.
Yeah, I was pretty zoned up, actually. I don't think I cracked a smile all day until the Hard Rock Cafe. But yeah, it was a pretty special moment. I mean, when I came out to bat, like we always do, we wanted to secure what we think was a par score, because you have so much trust in your bowling and fielding unit. We kind of would win, defend 95% of the time a pass score. So we just wanted to get thereabouts. When that was well within grasp, we could then really express ourselves and go for it. And once we got to 290, I wasn't complacent, but I thought there's just no way we're losing this game, to be honest.
Well, that was sort of where I wanted to go next. It's sort of in the interval, because 291 for 9. That's a big score, especially in 1999. I know we see that routinely sort of scored these days, but that wasn't the case back then. So you mentioned you weren't complacent, but you had two things to contend with in the interval. Yeah, how did you rouse the troops with a good score under your belt, and how did you ensure that they didn't all fill their boots for the famous Lord's lunch?
Well, I'll probably hand over to Borley in a bit, because he's a massive part of our fielding and bowling game. He always bowls his overs in the middle. We normally team up and bowl the middle overs a bit. But early on, he has a big job in the field in the slip cordon. He's quite a chirpy dude. He keeps the troops going all throughout those middle overs and coming up to the end. So Borley always had a massive role in the bowling and fielding department. So I'll hand over to him in a minute. But talking about rousing the troops, I mean, it's a final. You haven't got to say a lot, to be honest. You just got to make sure people are going to play their game, and they did. Borley.
Go on then, Borley.
No, I think, like Mark said there, he didn't need to raise the troops. We spent 3.5 hours, whatever it takes to bowl those 50 overs for Yorkshire, watching that partnership, which, both innings 100, and I thought Rob got 70 odd, not 60 odd. But it just shows it could have been 100. It could have been 120 from Rob as well. You feed off things throughout the game before we've even taken the field, which Mark's mentioned, and that partnership, we've taken the field not as if we've won the game already, but we've taken the field knowing we do our job. And then Mark's responsibility is to make sure we are all tuned in, doing our job and doing what we do, really. And so you took the field in belief that you were going to win it. Our dynamism, if that is the word I keep getting wrong, is different from the modern one-day game, but at the time was very dynamic. We created that pressure in the field of 11 against 2, which I've mentioned before. And whilst we know, if Smithy and Harve opened the bowling, whilst we knew they're always good for a couple of wickets, they didn't start with any freebies for the opposition. It wasn't necessarily about hitting home and having someone 30 for 3 and against it. We would like that, of course we would, and Smudge and Harve would always they'd always find the edge, but it was more about that building. We knew that at any stage in the game, once we got it up to a number of a run of ball, which people would laugh at now, we got to a run of ball, we win it from here, easy. And it was all about that, the way that the team moved around in the field. We never used, it was something that John and Mark brought to us. And you would be a unit. What was happening where the ball was on one side of the field as it went out, people were moving on the other side of the field to make sure there wasn't an overthrow and there was backup. And I think it was just a compound of that started off by the very first ball of the innings right the way through to the very last. And like Mark mentioned, we could deviate to any plan, but a lot of the time, because it went so well from the start, you didn't necessarily need to, because the likes of Smudge and Harve opening up, or Louis or Avo, whichever the balance of the team was, gets to a stage where they are a few down, there's pressure on them. They can't afford, in that era of one-day cricket, they can't afford to lose another wicket or two, because for every new batsman, it wouldn't be easy coming in with, no disrespect, because Boo Boo can bowl a quicker ball, but we call it the pace off the ball at the time when me and him were bowling in tandem. Snapey then, I might come off for a few overs, then Snapey would get a few in. I might replace Mark, whatever. We'd shuffle that bit around. But it was just that constant 11 against 2, Jack banging the drum from behind. But we would start, you know, it would all come from the start, and we would 2 slips on the gully, find the edge, get pressure on really from a few wickets, but no freebies. Don't let that run rate get going. Let them take the chance. Let them, you know, and mistakes would come. And it was a real emphasis of the team game when we were out there. With cricket's a team game for individuals, but every individual doing their job right the way through to little Steamy diving around at extra cover and what have you. And you know, then in a way that if things were going to plan, you could follow. Out he would drop, I'll come out from slip. You know, you've got your whippets out like Rob, you know, out in the sweeping, and suddenly they go 15 overs without a boundary, and the run rate's going away, and Jack's in their ear behind, and they were all the sort of elements that then made us, you know, a really good team. And it's, you know, you don't want to boast when you sat there with 3 members of it, but when you look back, yeah, we were a great unit. We wouldn't have won those trophies if we weren't.
I mean, the noticeable thing when you look at the sort of the players that Yorkshire had, a lot of them did get a start in their innings, but you've obviously talked about you created scoreboard pressure and applied it in the field. Do you actually remember your 3 wickets though, Martyn? And if you do, just talk us a little bit about.
Just the 3. I remember every wicket.
Here we go. Here's a celebration for you. Who would that have been? Do you know?
Vorney.
I think, yeah, probably Vorney, because the other 2 were just about pressure. I think Vorney's was not a bad nut actually. I just sort of threw in. Again, it's the pressure of the game. The run rate's going up. You've got to look to score, you know, and it wasn't the year of smashing it out the park. You know, someone coming in from ball 1 and hitting you out the park. So I think with the run rate building, we had such a formidable, like you say, 291. That from 10, 12 overs, the over rate shooting up. And you know, for someone, we knew Vorney was a good player of spin. That was probably the better ball. The other 2 wickets were, again, just run pressure, probably putting it in the right areas, keeping it tight, and someone's got to try and score off the ball when they maybe not got at that point not got the skill or what have you. And so I think the other
2 of your wickets were bowled, weren't they? Obviously Vorney.
Vorney's was a nice ball. You know, the classic off spinners up, Luke tried to work it through the gate, bowled. Richard Harden caught Rob, I think, round the corner. Again, run pressure, trying to score, trying to fiddle something. Whereas now they're just trying to bosh it out the park. And if they got out doing that, and it was a soft dismissal. I think Richard Blakey's was soft. I think he just went back to something that he shouldn't have gone. Tried to work it and missed it. But the funny thing is, a good friend of mine who played, the lads know, who played football for Chelsea for years, like called David Lee, another Bristolian, came to watch the final. And we've kept it quite tight. And I think I picked up, like you said, 3 wickets, but I hadn't gone for many, probably off of about 8. And I think in my 9th over, I think I went for 15 or 16. And but the one thing I remember is this guy in the crowd who was sat right next to my mum and dad, and Dave keeps taking the mick out. My mum just fed him all day. She had this picnic hamper just full of food, and he had to keep turning it down. And but Gavin Hamilton hit me for 6. When I was trying to think, well, you know, 3 for 20 would be lovely rather than 3 for 39. And there's one guy in the crowd, I remember just watching the ball all the way, and he sat there, and I think my mum had just handed him a pork pie, and it hit him straight on the head. Straight on the head, bounced about 40 foot into the crowd, and this guy, and I've seen it in the DVD or the video, whatever the club did, and this guy he'd obviously had a few beers, Gloucester supporter, shook his head. The blood starts to come down, and he just bit into mum's pork pie and carried on. And I remember seeing that out in the middle. It's mad how you pick out faces and what have you in the crowd.
Well, I hope he was all right. It sounds like he was.
I think he'd had too many ciders by then, so he was all right.
I guess as a cricket enthusiast, I never played the game at your level. So when you play a final like this, and you'd say, well, it's probably not a Lord's Classic because it's such a big victory margin. But to Gloucestershire fans, obviously on the day, they wouldn't have cared one bit. Obviously, as players, emphatic win. You are bowling second, and you know you're going to win. What's that feeling like? You know, when you take the 9th and the 10th wickets, and you know it's just that anticipation. What does that feel like, Rob, from your, you know, out in the deep, perhaps?
Well, I remember being down at fine leg actually, and then Louis obviously got the last wicket, and it was just that. Thank goodness, that's it. We have done it. You know, although, like you said, it was quite an impressive win, but it's still nice to get it sealed and done. And I just remember everybody running onto the ground, and you know, the police were following, and the stewards were following, and whatever, and we were just jumping around like, you know, we were over the moon. So, but I think just to see the volume of supporters that have, you know, had that trip down the M4, and to be stood underneath the balcony at Lord's was just amazing, really, you know. And then getting the trophy and things. I remember Borley was the main man there with holding it up. He loved it, didn't you?
Love every win, Rob.
I don't think I got my hands on it right till the end. I was stood down at the far end.
I do remember though, and myself and Borley have had this conversation probably 1,000 times, and it is coming towards the end. As you said, he's bowled 8 overs, 3 for 20. He's earned the right to waggle a few more, and that's a little bit higher. And sometimes he will get 5 for 25, but on this, you know, sometimes he will go for a few runs. But he knows the game is done.
Yeah.
You know, the game was done.
I think they were about. I think we had them sort of like 120 for 6 or 7.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
It was
tricky.
It's nice.
You want to see the game out really ruthlessly, but you know what? Sometimes you earn the right to have a little bit of a dabble, and that's
I think you know, from my perspective, once those overs were bowled, you knew we were winning the game. There is an element, but you see teams in all sports take their foot off the gas. You see the good football teams like Man City. No, when they're 2-0, 3-0 up at half time, they get into problems when they take their foot off the gas too early. But you do see them at 3-0 with 20 minutes to go, enjoying the moment that they've won that game or what have you. I'm not saying, you know, the foot comes off the gas in a way, but you're not, you know, you still see it through. Something happens for a couple of overs, and it's come on, hey, back in, and you finish that game. But I think that Lord's final was nice, especially because, you know, we were winning the game. We weren't being unprofessional, as in showboating around the place, but you were able to enjoy those last few overs of when that wicket came. To look around, hear the Gloucester fans singing, you know, see that chicken being hoisted into the air, picking people you know out in the crowd, whether it's supporters or family. And you don't get many games that you can in that last 10, 15 minutes, remember really enjoying it. You know, there's a lot of games where if you're in the field, they need 30 off the last 3 and it'd be over in a flash if someone sticks it in the crowd, or you're chasing and you got to, you know, you're 8 down needing 20 and it's tension. So I think that final was really nice in the way that we were able to, we sort out professionally, we've done that, but from my perspective, it was nice to be able to take it in a bit.
Well, you know, I did love that picture of the scramble at the end. This is before the days where spectators were banned from the outfield. You're sort of running the gauntlet a little bit, aren't you, at the end of a game? Did any of you get any of the stumps? Did you get any memorabilia from the match? Anything to remember?
Jack picked. If you watch, Jack picks up 3 stumps and then gets smashed from the side, and that was me nearly rugby tackling him because as I dived in, I think I got 2 and I left him with 1, or the bells, and I remember giving somebody else a stump.
Louis had it, yeah.
And so I had one of the Super Cup. It's just in my memorabilia somewhere. It's either in my memorabilia or had to be raffled in my my benefit season. One of the 2.
And Skip, we obviously got used to seeing you with a trophy lift, but this was your first. I think we got a picture of it. You know, do you remember that moment? Do you remember getting that Man of the Match award?
Yeah, I do remember that moment well. Yeah, going out on top of the balcony there. Nice little trophy there with the Super Cup. No, it was fab. No, it was a good day. I got the gold award, which I've managed to keep hold of somehow. Where is it? There you go. That's
Brilliant.
it.
Lovely.
Yeah, that was a pretty special day, to be honest. The aftermath is always a strange thing because it's the one thing I would love to change if I had the chance. Because at the end of the game, as you know, there's all the presentations. Then the captain and some key players have to go and do a press conference. And sometimes you do miss out on that kind of intimate moment in the changing room. You know, that you're all celebrating together, you're singing the Glorious Gloucesters, and you miss out on that sometimes. And by the time I get back to the changing room, it's filled with every and anyone, and they're very welcome. I'm not moaning about it, but I felt sometimes you just miss out on that intimate moment with the lads where you just gone, yeah, have a little bit of that. You know what I mean?
Did you end up? I think you said you went to the Hard Rock Cafe. Did you get a bit of a moment later on, or does that get a bit hazy?
I remember getting there. No, it was good fun.
The sun was shining when we left, so
Yeah. And it actually epitomizes how we did the whole thing. You know, we probably tried to organize that after the game. There was no mention before the game of what we're going to do afterwards. You know, no one really cared. It was like, let's get the game done, then we'll think about what happens afterwards. And I'm not sure who eventually sorted out the Hard Rock Cafe, but they were very accommodating. I've got to say that. We spent a bit of dodge.
I think there was a lot of Gloucester fans who didn't make their last train home, for sure. Because, you know, I think we had a few beers outside the ground in the tavern. So as we were, you know, before we went anywhere, back to the hotel, we went, and there was, you know, I don't know whether it's just the classic you're getting older, you know, back in my day type of thing, but that there didn't seem an empty seat for that, you know, for our first couple of Lord's finals. And the Gloucester fans, you know, would just pour up the motorway, like Rob said. The Somerset game was full. You know, our supporters have had a taste for it again for the first time in 20 odd years. Somerset hadn't been in a final for years. So the next one was full, but our Lord's finals seemed to be pretty, you know, like I can't remember empty seats. And when Rob said, when they poured on the ground, I saw pictures of it the other day. And it was just a mass of people out there when we're looking out onto the ground, you know, not just a non-event. Huge.
Well, the Somerset match will be our next in the series, but I suppose when you've won one and you don't know what's to come, of course, you didn't know that you were going to create this big legacy. But you know, did it feel like something had changed? That you know the trophy is sort of confirmation you're doing the right things, and did it feel like you were going to go on and continue in successful vein? Skip, perhaps that's one directed at you.
Okay, so I mean, it did consolidate a lot of our thinking. When John arrived, like the boys have said, there was a massive shift in how we wanted to approach cricket, without a doubt, and he brought that kind of Antipodean energy with him to the club, and we really needed it, to be honest. The things that he put in place, as I said, getting success fairly soon, really consolidated that this was the right way to go. Guys realised they didn't have to sacrifice too much. In fact, it was more enjoyable, and people really look forward to playing. And that made it a lot easier for me, of course. Bit of a heartache when you couldn't select 11. But we always had another 5 or 6 guys bursting to get into that 11, which is a really healthy place to be. And I think that's what kept us ticking over. We weren't scared to make any changes, whether it be personnel or role or whatever. In fact, I think Jack opened the batting in the next final. I'm not sure where Rob went to in that stage, but, you know, it was whatever we need to do, we'll give it a go, and we're not going to be scared. And and it worked really well. And we had the trust of the guys, and reciprocally, you know, they had they trusted us, which was a really good thing.
I think my final question to you all would be, you know, Rob's told us this is probably the most special innings of his career, but where does the match and the memories around it, where does that stand in your respective careers? Rob, would the match itself be the most special one of your career as well as the innings?
Yeah, I think it would do, yeah. Purely for the fact that, as well as what Mark just touched on there, the change that we done as a unit, you know, with all the training and the diets and things like that. And like I said, we were physically fit, but I think it's just as respect to the club. You know, it's 22 years. I've been patient, you know, they've obviously been patient with me as well. But it was just, I don't know, I don't think you can really put words into it. It's just amazing. It's just amazing to be a part of the lads, part of the club. You know, it's just great memories.
Yeah, thank you. Martyn, same question to you.
I have to agree with Rob. I think everybody's got, say, personal performances. Cricket does have that element in it where, you know, there's special moments on a personal performance or whatever, whether it's the guys getting a double 100 in the championship game or something like that. You've got your own little ones like that, but as a game, as an event, it has to be that game, because that game was instrumental in us all believing, not necessarily consciously, not necessarily at the time saying for Mark and John to sit us down as a team and say, you know, it was just that, you know, that community of Gloucesters where we became that family of, you know, that band of brothers. People came and went and what have you, but that, without a shadow of a doubt, that installed the belief that what we're buying into, what we're supporting, what we're trying to self-police between ourselves, that responsibility is working, and look what we're doing. And then it was great that it was the first trophy of the season, because then we're able to, which you're going to move on to on your next Zoom cast or whatever you want to call it, is that we then went on in the NatWest Trophy and won that as well. And it was that special day, and without a shadow of a doubt, as a one match for all what it meant, is the most specialist of the Lord's finals to me.
And Mark, where does it rank for you? You were man of the match, of course.
Yeah, I mean, those moments don't come along that often. Scoring 100 at Lords, I think it was my first 100 at Lords, on the number of attempts, including championship games. It was a really, really special day. The weather was great. Everything was set up for a fantastic day. I would never forget that day. And it's right up there, my top two Gloucestershire moments. But I've got to say, you know, it was about three months after my England debut, which for a lot of professional cricketers is the pinnacle of your career. But Gloucestershire, it's right up there. But I know, Neil, you're going to come onto it soon. And this year, a lot of people do talk about this game and the double we did this year in '99. The 2000 efforts for me were really special. But the double again, you know, has never been repeated, and that would always probably be a real proud moment for all of us.
Well, Mark, we are actually going to invite you back for a program later in this series, so we look forward to sort of hearing a bit more about that. But look, on behalf of the club, I'd just like to say a big thank you for you all joining us. It's fantastic to hear stories of that period and that match in particular. We really hope that once we get cricket back on the field at Bristol County Ground, we can invite you gents up and, you know, and get you watching the current crop. It's an exciting time for the club, I think. But thank you all for joining us today.
No problem there.
Just one thing. I mean, if anyone wants any advice about playing behind closed doors, I'm sure myself and Borley in particular have played quite a few championship games there. So,
nice one.
Cheers.
Yeah, thanks, Neil. Look forward to seeing everyone in Bristol.
Brilliant.
Good to see you, Boo. Good to see you,
Thanks,
Rob.
Neil. Take care. Stay
Cheers.
safe.
Bye-bye.
Bye bye.